أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام، فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة، فقلت عليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا، فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني وغطيني به، فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. صلوات. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه، فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمه إني أشم إليك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل حسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذنوا لي أن أدخل معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه، فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذنوا لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذنوا لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيء وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذنوا لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فدخلت تحت فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاستي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم، أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن آذاهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل سلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فحبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي والجلال إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذنوا لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله عليه السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وخاز الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Come to the front and sit straight this way, that your necks don't get strained. And secondly, importantly, whenever there is a call for a salawat, I want to hear everybody's voices, including the grown-ups. Okay, nobody's going to sit quiet and say, no, for loud salawat from their voice. Okay, inshallah. So that it removes shyness and it increases your iman. That is also the case.
Please recite loud salawat. Can we please invite our English speaker, Syed Imran Qaseem, with the loudest of your salawats, please?
Oops. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على رسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد سيدنا ومولانا ومولى الكونين وجد الحسن والحسين عاني أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله أعدائهم أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. قال الله تعالى في الكتاب الكريم فقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you very much. So we continue our series of majalis or lectures regarding the analysis of history with regards to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt. What has history given as far as the status of these personalities are concerned in the books that are there with us these days? Now, we discussed about the ancestors of Rasulullah. We discussed about his wife. We discussed about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And we discussed yesterday about Lady Fatima Zahra salamullah alaiha. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Today we speak about Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We see what has history said about him. What is his status? Well, most of us know his status, but let's talk about it. Let's analyze it from a historical perspective. We're not talking about Imam Ali alayhi salam's spirituality and all the greatness that he had in his own personality, in his own being. But we're only talking about what history has given to him as far as status is concerned. Now, the thing is that the personality of Imam Ali alayhi salam is nothing short of a mu'jiza. What is a mu'jiza? In English, we call it a miracle. A miracle. What is a miracle? How do you define a miracle?
Something great that's happened.
Okay, that's fine. So a great could be that you climb Mount Everest. Is that a miracle? Exactly.
Magic, basically.
Well, it's not magic, but something which can happen. I know you have all the answers. I'll take your answers later on as well. But if you take the answers now, it will become a question and answer session, and the Majlis will go on till 10:30. I have to go to work tomorrow as well. So please keep that in mind. So we'll try to do the question and answers at the end as we do every day. Okay, so keep your questions, don't forget that. Now, a miracle or a mu'jiza is something which happens very rarely. It is true, and it cannot be explained in the natural methods, or you cannot explain them physically. For example, if the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, that is natural, normal, right? That's not a miracle. But if the sun returns from the west, then that is a miracle. The moon is shining. If Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam splits the moon into half, that's a miracle, because you cannot explain it. It is a very rare occurrence. It has happened. If the sea is running through a certain land or between two lands and it splits apart to make a way for a group of people, that is a miracle, which happened for Musa alayhi salam and his people. Then if from Adam alayhi salam's time till now, people are born in a certain way. If somebody is born in a manner that Jesus alayhi salam was born, that is a miracle. See where I'm coming from? So all this is how you define a miracle, which is rare, it is true, and it cannot be explained by natural explanations or physical explanations that we have. Not empirical analysis can be done on this to find out how this happened, what happened. Like all your chemistry and physics students and biologists and doctors, they all rely on experiments to arrive at a certain argument or a certain hypothesis or a theory. Or if the theory is proved, then it's a law. Like the law of gravity. You don't say the theory of gravity. It is there, it is proven. But you say the theory of evolution. It has not been proven. There are still conjectures going on. What is it? There's no proof of the theory of evolution. Everybody is trying to do their conjecture and putting forward the hypothesis. So going back to the miracle, a miracle is something that is not explained through this empirical analysis, and it happens very rarely, but it is true, right? What I said was that Imam Ali alayhi salam's personality is a miracle. Why did I say that? I say, these Shias, they talk like this. Ali, Ali, everywhere, Ali, Ali, everything, Ali, Ali. Let me go and do a little bit more deep depth and explain to you what I'm trying to say about Imam Ali alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So his first speciality, which you all know, is that he was born in the Kaaba. He was born in the Kaaba, right? Now, that's a special thing. Nobody has been born in the Kaaba ever since or before him. Nobody was born before in the Kaaba, and nobody has been born since Imam Ali alayhi salam was born after him. So this is a special thing that is related to Ali alayhi salam. Now the question arises, did Ali alayhi salam wanted to be born inside the Kaaba, Or was it that the Kaaba wanted Imam Ali alayhi salam to be born inside? Kaaba wanted its own, for its own greatness, that Ali be born inside him. Or you will say, what are you talking about? How can the Kaaba want something? You know, it's a non-entity. It's like a mud and bricks. But Ali, still in the womb of his mother, when he is born, does he want to be born in the Kaaba? Who is greater? Who wants it to happen? Let's talk about this. If Imam Ali alayhi salam in the Battle of Khaybar asks for the alam to be given to him, then it's Ali's desire. But if Rasulullah calls him and gives him the alam, then it's the alam's desire to be in Ali's hands. That is another speciality. If Ali wants Jannah and he goes and gives bread to the poor, to the prisoner, and to the yatim or the orphan, then Ali wants Jannah. But if they come to his house and take the bread from him, that is Jannah wanting Ali alayhi salam. Similarly, if Ali alayhi salam goes to the beggar in the masjid of Rasulullah and gives his ring to him, then Ali wants wilayah. But if the beggar comes and takes the ring from Ali's hand, then wilayah wants Ali. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So all these entities that I mentioned to you, they can come and go. You know, there are people, you know, alam can be brought by Rasulullah and given to Ali alayhi salam. Go and fight and win the battle of Khaybar. The poor person, the prisoner was released, and the orphan, they all can come to his house. The beggar can come to the masjid to take these things. But the house of Allah doesn't go anywhere. It's bricks and mortar. It doesn't go anywhere. So how come we are talking about the Kaaba wanted Ali to be born inside him for its own fazila, for its own greatness, for its own high status? How am I saying that? Okay, the Kaaba has a door. Everybody seen pictures of Kaaba? Somebody have been to you have been to the Kaaba and you've seen the Kaaba has a door. If the mother of Imam Ali alayhi salam wants Ali to be born inside the Kaaba, she can go through the door of the Kaaba, because her husband has the keys, he's in charge of the keys of the Kaaba. But if the Kaaba's wall splits apart and beckons Bint Asad to come inside the Kaaba, then it is the Kaaba that wants Ali to be born inside. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So you see, what had happened was that the wall of the Kaaba had split up. And when you go there, some of you have been there, when you go there, you will see that the Kaaba is held by big fat nails at one corner. And every time it splits, because of course it's been shattered once and it's never got together, glued up together like all the other corners of the Kaaba. And that is the place where Imam Ali alayhi salam's mother went through when the Kaaba opened up for her. Because she was in pain of childbirth, and she was doing the tawaf of the Kaaba and doing dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easier for him. The Kaaba split up and there was a voice that came in, Bint Asad, come inside. And she went inside, and Imam Ali alayhi salam was born, and we had the whole story about it, about how he opened his eyes when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to there. Well, one little snippet I'll give you as well. The Kaaba nowadays has a lot of lighting in Allah. In those days, there was no light. So when the door was actually opened 3 days after the birth of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Rasulullah asked his auntie Bint Asad, Imam Ali's mother, how is the baby? And Bint Asad said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the baby is beautiful, but he doesn't open the eyes. Now there was no light inside the Kaaba. It must have been dark. How did the mother see that the baby is beautiful? How did you see? You know, if you turn off all the lights, and I have this mobile phone on, you will see the mobile phone, because why? It is emanating noor from itself. The baby was emanating the noor from itself. So the mother could see the baby, what it looked like. This is another speciality of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and it corroborates the fact when Rasulullah said that Ali and me are born from the same noor. Which is why when Imam Ali alayhi salam slept in the bed of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the night of Hijrah, people could not recognize whether it's Rasulullah or Imam Ali alayhi salam. Only in the morning they found out that it's Ali, not Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because why? Because it was the same light used to come out from Rasulullah's body that used to emanate from Imam Ali alayhi salam's body. And that's why they were fooled. They did not know who was sleeping there. So all these things say that Ali alayhi salam has a special significance in the history of Islam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So he was born in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was raised by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah was his cousin, but he was roughly 30 years older than Imam Ali alayhi salam. And he raised Imam Ali alayhi salam himself. On the night of Hijrah, Imam Ali alayhi salam slept on Rasulullah's bed so that Rasulullah could migrate, as the Quran says, by selling his nafs, by selling his soul to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's how Rasulullah could migrate away from Mecca onto Medina. So all these things happened. Then in Medina, Ali alayhi salam supported Rasulullah in every way as you can think of. Rasulullah made him his brother in the world and in the hereafter. Imam Ali salam in the battle of Badr, which was the first battle against the Mushrikeen, he showed his valor and skills, and he won a major victory for the Muslims. 70 of the Mushrikeen, or the opposing army, were killed. Out of those 70, 35 died on the sword of Imam Ali alayhi salam. That's how skilled he was. He showed his valor. In the battle of Uhud, when the Muslim army ran away and Rasulullah was in danger, Imam Ali alayhi salam was there to protect Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the battle of Khandaq, when Amr ibn al-Wad was being rude and impolite towards Rasulullah and his people, Imam Ali alayhi salam went and defeated him. So all these things happened. In Khaybar, when the Muslim army was in distress, the water was running scarce, and they were not able to defeat the army of the Jews in that fort, Imam Ali alayhi salam broke open the door of Khaybar and threw it apart so that the Muslims could win a victory over there. And it was a major victory, the victory of Khaybar, which is why we call Imam Ali alayhi salam Fatih al-Khaybar as well, because the way he had broken the door of Khaybar was a miracle in itself. In human strength, you could not break that door. It was made of wood and iron. It was a huge door, and he used his spiritual strength along with his physical strength to remove the door from there so that the Muslims could win a victory in that battle. So which is why he was never defeated in any battle that he fought, whether in his youth at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also when he became the caliph in the battle of Jamal, in Siffin, or in Harwan. He was never defeated. In the battlefield, he was always victorious. So you see all these things that I'm narrating about Imam Ali alayhi salam. I'm going to keep narrating it so that you understand who is Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Okay, this is extremely important because it deals with our aqidah. Aqidah means what? Your belief system, the roots of your belief. It deals with that. When the Quran came down, we see in Ayat al-Tathir, there is Ali. In Ayat al-Mubahala, there is Ali. In Ayat al-Najwa, there is Ali. In Ayat al-Mawaddat, there is Ali. Everywhere is Ali. And you say, why you do Ali, Ali all the time? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When the hadiths come in, you see in the hadith of Tayr, there is Ali. In the hadith of Manzilat, there is Ali. In the hadith of Safina, there is Ali. In the hadith of Bab, there is Ali. Again, the same question arises. Why do you do Ali, Ali? There are reasons why we indulge in this, invoking of this name, because this name has some specialities. When you talk about the fazila of Imam Ali al-Islam, the greatness of himself, when you talk about fazila, he was born in the arms, born in the arms of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He slept in the bed of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was there on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was there in Kaaba Qawsain when Rasulullah did the night journey over there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke in the voice of Ali. That's why some people confuse it. Say, you say Allah was like Ali. No, Allah was not like Ali. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the voice which is familiar to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that he did not feel out of place or scared or something overawed, because he was familiar with this voice. Allah could communicate over there. This is an explanation given by our ulama. So it's not that Ali became Allah or Allah became Ali, nothing like that. But he was there. His attribute was there, used at that level as well. So everywhere we talk about the fazila of Imam Ali alayhi salam, we see there are certain reasons why he was better than most. Of course, he was the same nur as with which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was created. So there is no problem with us. But I'm trying to analyze further on as I go on in my lecture. What was the problem that the Muslim Ummah created as far as Imam Ali alayhi salam is concerned? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So as I mentioned, some people call Ali alayhi salam Allah, Ma'azallah, A'udhu Billah. Some people call him Imam. Some people call him the Khalifa. Some people call him the fountainhead of all the Waliullahs. All these things are, but I want to arrive at the bare minimum basic about Imam Ali alayhi salam that all Muslims agree upon. You will also answer the question that I will ask you, okay? If you can, that is. So let's go to what is the bare minimum about Imam Ali alayhi salam that we all agree upon, all Muslims agree upon. Was he a Muslim or not a Muslim? Everybody's shaking, nodding their head. Yes, he was a Muslim. He was a Muslim, yeah. So all Muslims agree upon that? That Imam Ali alayhi salam was a Muslim, okay? Was he a Sahabi of Rasulullah or not? Yeah, everybody's nodding their head again. He was a Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Was he the son-in-law of Rasulullah or not? Did he marry the daughter of Rasulullah? Yes, you all are nodding their heads again. And then, was he not the fourth Khalifa of the Muslims? Everybody's nodding their head. Yeah, he was the fourth Khalifa of the Muslims. All these attributes are there, these five, that everybody agrees upon. Muslim, Sahabi, and the one thing that I didn't mention, was he a cousin of Rasulullah or not? He was the cousin as well. He was his uncle's son, youngest son of his uncle Abu Talib. So he was a cousin, he was also the son-in-law, and he was also the Khalifa of the Muslims. All these five attributes are agreed upon by all Muslims as far as Imam Ali alayhi salam is concerned. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So in fairness, looking at the Iman of all of us, if we check our hearts and say, what do you call people who badmouth a person who is a Muslim, Sahabi, cousin of Rasulullah, son-in-law of Rasulullah, and the Khalifa of Muslims? What do you call people who badmouth such a person? That's what my question is to history. Because there have been things that have been going on in the name of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he's been maligned and he's been alive. You know, some people call him Masoom, some people say Ya Ali, some people say that he's an Imam, some people say that he is Mushkil Kusha, all that stuff. Forget about all that stuff. We are not talking about all that. We are talking about the bare minimum here. The bare minimum is the five things that I mentioned to you and you all agreed upon, right? I think if I mention these five things to any Muslim, he will agree that Imam Ali had these characteristics, these attributes, right? No dispute yet on that? Okay. So now, he is being consistently being spoken badly from the mimbar of the masjids in Damascus. And anywhere the Umayyads ruled in that area, he's been consistently being spoken badly about. No Jummah would start without bad-mouthing Imam Ali alayhi salam. That was the rule, that was the law. That if you cannot do that, you are not going to be the Khatib of the Jummah. So obviously everybody wants to earn money, so they're ready to do anything that the ruler wants to do. So now people are bad-mouthing Imam Ali alayhi salam on the mimbar, on the pulpit of the Jummah. And remember, the person who leads Jummah is not just a regular guy. He's not just a regular mu'min or a Muslim. He's somebody who's learned, he's somebody who's supposed to be pious, and somebody who's upright. Not somebody who's bought out for a few dirhams or dinars. Or he's scared so easily and he just dispenses into the right and the wrong. So these people are bad-mouthing Imam Ali alayhi salam consistently. And you know what? Not just for 1 or 2 years. If you look at different historical narrations, it went on for 70 to 80 years, as I mentioned in one of my previous lectures as well. For 70 to 80 years, this bad-mouthing abuse was going on about Imam Ali alayhi salam. If you are 10 years old now, you would be 80 or 90 years old and the abuse is still going on. If you're 30 years old or 40 years old, you're probably dead, but still going on. That's how long it went. 3 generations would have grown up in that time. People born were 70 years old, all needing a stick to walk, and the abuse was going on by Imam Ali alayhi salam. What was the reason? Why was this happening? What caused people to go around doing such a thing for somebody who had those 5 attributes? Talking bad about any Muslim is wrong. It is very clearly said in the Quran that if you talk badly about a Muslim behind his back, it is riba. It is like you're eating your dead brother's flesh. You're eating your dead brother's flesh. How horrible is that? Would anybody do that? Nobody. Everybody loves their brother. And forget about brother. Any dead person's flesh. Why would you do that? It is abhorrent. This is as bad. Talking about somebody behind the back. Don't say that, oh, I was talking the truth. No. Whether it's truth or falsehood. Falsehood has a double guna apart from that. If it is true and you're talking bad about him in his absence, that is wrong. For example, I'm giving a lecture and he said, you don't like the looks of me. And when I'm gone, he says, look at it funny. Moulana came here, it was funny, isn't it? How he talked, how he raised his hands like that all the time. That is riba. But if you said this Moulana was not talking right, that is not riba. Because you are talking about something which is in the public domain that I am giving a lecture on and I'm impacting people. That is not riba. You can talk about my lecture. What did he say? Didn't make sense to me at all. Why was he saying this, that, and the other? Which is why we have the question answer session at the end, so that you can clear your doubts and you can raise questions on what I said. But if you start talking about something which is not relevant to anybody, just about me or anybody else for that matter, somebody whom you hate, somebody you don't like, and you start going around talking bad about them, whether it's true or not, that is as bad as eating your dead brother's flesh. Remember that. It's a major guna. And they were doing this about Imam Ali al-Islam, a Muslim, a Sahabi, the cousin of Rasulullah, the son-in-law of Rasulullah, and the Khalifa of Muslims. Okay? So this was what they're doing. Now, all the Muslims are very divided nowadays, right? The Muslims are very divided. Something or the other, they can argue upon it and they don't like each other. It's a speciality of Muslims, it seems. But it's not just a speciality of Muslims. I trust you. I tell you, trust me, because people are like that. Whether it's atheists, Christians, Jews, not so sure about Jews because they're very united. But most people like to find fault in others and then they dislike each other. Now in Islam, we take it very seriously. That's why we talk about it so much, because unity is extremely important. You need to ignore the faults. Because we follow Imam Ali al-Islam, there's a hadith from Imam Ali al-Islam that he said, ignore the fault of your brother 70 times. Or ignore 70 faults of your brother before you accuse him of something. If you heard something, just don't go around believing, like in WhatsApp. Oh, WhatsApp University sent me this. I will believe it because it's on WhatsApp. No, not necessary. You need to do due diligence, do your research, then accept anything that comes on your phone. Or anybody says something about somebody, don't just believe him straight away. Check out. In the Quran, it is mentioned that you need to check out everything before you react and say your own opinion. Don't make opinions based on something which is on the internet or something which has come to you on your phone or something like that. Somebody says something to you. Okay, we're digressing now. We don't talk about tablighi stuff. We'll talk about historical stuff. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I was saying that Muslims are divided into many sects nowadays. It is said there's one hadith which says that Muslims will be divided into 73 sects. 73, 72, 70, 50, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever number of groups or sects of Muslims there are, if you look at their belief systems, there can be only 3 kinds of Muslims. One group is the one who is called the Imami, who follow the Ahlul Bayt, who follow the 12 Imams. That is one group of Muslims, right? Second group of Muslims will be the ones who follow the 4 Khulafa, and they're called the Sunnis, the Ahlul Sunnah. And there's another group of Muslims who have a silsila of peers, which is called the Sufis. Silsila means a chain. In Arabic, chain is called silsila. So a silsila of peers. In our countries, when you go back to India, Pakistan, there's a lot of things about peer and murshid and all that. And they respect their peers a lot. So all these 3 groups, these are the only 3 groups of Muslims that are there. All 3 groups of Muslims, for the Imamiyah, who follow the maktab of the Ahlul Bayt, they say that Imam Ali alayhi salam is our first Imam, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. We say alayhi salam, may peace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on him. If you're a Sunni, he says, my Khalifa, you can't talk bad about him. You can't criticize him. He's the Khalifa Rashideen. the rightly guided caliph, even though they choose him as number 4, but he is amongst the 4 rightly guided caliphs. They don't want to talk bad about him. Then there's a third group, which is the Sufis, as I mentioned, which have a silsila of walis or peers. And at the fountainhead of every wali is Imam Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. He is the head of every silsila of Sufis. Whatever kind of Sufi you might be, that there are groups of Shias, there are groups of Sunnis, and there are groups of Sufis as well. But each group of Sufis as well, the top is sitting Imam Ali alayhi salam. So all these 3 groups of Muslims consider Imam Ali alayhi salam respectable and dignified. Not just normally respectable. I respect you, you respect me as well. That is a respect as well. We are talking about a high level of respect for Imam Ali alayhi salam. Then who were the people who were abusing Imam Ali alayhi salam? What do you call such people who were abusing Imam Ali alayhi salam? I don't think there are any of these 3 groups. So what are they? What are they? I don't want to put names on them, but the fact is very clear that anybody who is abusing a person who is a Muslim, who is a Sahabi, who is a cousin of Rasulullah, who is a son-in-law of Rasulullah, and is the 4th caliph of Islam, there must be a problem with that person or those people. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So you see, generations grew up with this hatred of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Generations, 2 or 3 generations passed by before it was stopped by one of the Umayyad caliphs. His name was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, or also known as Umar II. Why did he stop it? He was more aware, more of the status of the Ahlul Bayt in the first place. That's one thing, to give him some credit. But I'll tell you a story. One day somebody turned up in his court. Very interesting story, so pay attention to this. One day somebody turned up in his court and said, I want to meet the Khalifa. And the people said, okay, you are somebody, so who are you? Why do you want to meet the Khalifa? He said, I am a Yahudi, I'm a Jew, and I want to make a proposal for his daughter, so I want to marry his daughter. And the courtiers were mad at him. Said, you are a Jewish person and you want to marry the daughter of the Khalifa of Muslims? How dare you? And they were like, swords started coming out, they're going to chop him off and this, that, and the other. So this Jewish person, he was not easily scared. He said, let me talk to your Khalifa. So he was in the court in any case. So they put him forward. So he was saying something rude. He wants to marry your daughter. And he's a Jewish person. He's not even a Muslim. So he said, listen, all I'm trying to say to you all is to follow the example of your Prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. So all I'm saying is just to follow his example. So the Khalifa says, what do you mean? Follow the example of Rasulullah? What do you mean? So didn't he get his daughter married to a Jew? No. He said he got his daughter married to Ali. So isn't Ali a Jew then? Khalifa said, no, he's not a Jew, he's a Muslim. Then the Jewish person said, then why are you abusing him every time? If he's not a Jew, he's a Muslim, and you're supposed to respect every Muslim at least. Why are you abusing him every week on Jummah? That opened his eyes. This is going to bring down the entire kingdom. This kind of enmity with Imam Ali alayhi salam. So he abolished that practice of abusing Imam Ali alayhi salam after all these things were gathering speed, and this incident happened. So in history, which I have referred it here, so that you know that people from the outside were also wondering what's wrong with these guys. What's wrong with these Umayyads? Why are they bad-mouthing this person who's supposed to be respected and supposed to be revered? So all these things were going on. So it is a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Imam Ali alayhi salam's name exists with all beauty and all greatness even now. Even now. Because you have people, not just the Shia Muslims who call themselves the followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam. We talk about people generally, Muslims generally, highly respectful of Imam Ali alayhi salam. There's only a group of people who still exist from there who have that hatred of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Even non-Muslims have a lot of respect for Imam Ali alayhi salam. There are slogans and couplets from Imam Ali alayhi salam speeches that are there in many offices, important offices of the world, including the United Nations. In India, I saw this. In some offices, there were some couplets written about his speeches. The most famous of it is the one in which Imam Ali alayhi salam has written a letter to his general in Egypt, in which he says, remember, treat people fairly. justly. Because people are of two types. Either they are your brothers in faith, or they are your brothers in humanity. This is the kind of, so this one is there in the UNO as well. So, and many people have read his Nahjul Balagha and have written analysis about it. Many people have seen the beauty of this person. How could somebody speak like that? It's not a normal person who speaks like the way the speeches are there in Nahjul Balagha. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So you have these audio recordings and video recordings of speeches nowadays. But when if you go a few, a time before, there were no audio and video recordings of people, right? So people, once they were very magnificent speakers, even at that time, very good speakers, very good scholars, once they passed away, their work was finished. People didn't remember their characteristics after a generation or two. But then, now the audio and video recordings are there. So now the life of the speeches or the scholarship of certain scholars exists for a lot longer. Because if I want to listen to a scholar who just passed away, let's say 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I have the audio or the video recordings of that scholar. So that scholar is still alive because his speeches are there recorded. So they are there, we can listen to him and we can appreciate him. It's not to say that in the past, 100 years ago, there were no great speakers. They were, but we don't have their assets now because there's no recordings available of them. However, some very, very good speakers and scholars, their speeches have been compiled into books. People would do the Ashra of Muharram or the month of Ramadan, and in that, whatever lectures they gave, people will be sitting in that Majlis and will be compiling notes, and then they will publish it. And it will become the form of a book by the end of the month of Ramadan, by the end of the month of Muharram, whatever. So then you see that that stuff is available. And when that stuff is available, people have access to what they said. But there are some people, not just some people, many people will say, I read this person's lectures that have been compiled by people, and I've also listened to him live. But the fun and the enjoyment and the feeling that I get by listening to lectures is incomparable. You don't get the same thing from reading the speeches. Because you don't see the body language of the person, you don't get the tone of the person, the way he's delivering it. The content 1400 years is pretty much similar, right? Islam hasn't changed after the Rasulullah brought it. It's the same Islam, same religion, but people deliver it in different ways. And some people like some speakers, some people like some speakers. So the way people deliver speeches has a lot more attraction than the way it is written in a book. There's no tonality, there's no body language, there's no smiles that you can see, or no passion or the anger that you see sometimes from speakers. So you don't get that association with the text which is written. But Allah's miracle is such, the Nahjul Balagha, for those who have not heard Imam Ali speak on the Mimbar of Kufa, can enjoy the same way when they read the Nahjul Balagha. This is not a miracle of Allah, then what is? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And it is great, after all that opposition, Imam Ali's speeches are still here. Itself is a miracle. Forget about the quality of the content. I'm talking about the beauty and the quality of the content of the speeches. Just the fact that they are here after all the opposition that he received and his people received is a miracle in itself. All these things combined make Imam Ali al-Islam a very, very different person from normal people or normal leaders. He is somebody who is not what you call just a general leader. He is somebody who is inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's somebody who is a wali Allah right at the core of the word. If the word wali Allah had a manifestation, it will be Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib al-Islam. That is a real wali Allah. Now, after you see in the first generation after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the first century, there were so many corrupt practices going on, so many people abusing Imam Ali alayhi salam, and all that was going on. Why are people so concerned or get upset when I say I want to investigate these writings that are existing now, these hadiths that are existing now, that history that is there, I want to question it. Why? Because any hadith, my dear brothers and sisters, any hadith is sustained on the basis of the strength of its chain of narration. Like I mentioned, chain in Arabic means silsila. Silsila of the riwayah, as they say in technical term. The chain of narration. If somebody has narrated the hadith, then who has he heard it from? So that's the first chain. Second last chain rather. Then who has he narrated from? And then he from whom? And then he from whom? And then he from whom? Right up to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When that chain is there, and you know that all these people in the chain were authentic people, truthful people, trustworthy people, then that hadith becomes authentic. But if in that chain, one of them or two of them or any of them is dodgy by any standard of quality of humanity, then the entire content of the hadith becomes questionable. You can't trust it. I mean, you are telling me that for 70 to 80 years, there were people who were paid up by the Umayyads to write whatever the Umayyads wanted to write, and you are telling me that I should not question it? Why shouldn't I question it? I want to question history. I want to find out what is the truth. Why was this happening? I mean, I'm not going to deliver the answers now because it's up to the people to find the answers and question their own history to see what was going on at that time. Because it's like a chandelier. Have you seen chandeliers, everybody? We've seen chandeliers either in the house or the office or the school, wherever. Yeah, a chandelier hangs to a chain, right? And it is stuck on the roof above through a very strong hook, right? And then there's a chain which holds the chandelier correctly. If, imagine, right from the beginning where the hook is, the first chain is weak, what is the possibility now? The entire chandelier might fall down and shatter into pieces when it falls down, right? And when it shatters into pieces, apart from getting broken itself, it might take the lives of the people who are sitting under it. If they don't take the life, it might actually damage their bones. Somebody will be injured seriously. This is what I'm trying to say. This is the example I'm trying to associate you with what happened in Islamic history. In the first century itself, from Rasulullah, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the chain is shaky. There are liars there. There are people who are bought by the rulers of that time. And they are the ones who are writing the history. They are the ones who are narrating the hadith after being paid up and bribed by the rulers. Now, how do I trust them? I will never trust them. I will always question them. And I ask you to come forward and question the history yourself. Check out what is in the history. Why are such people like me coming out and asking you to question history? Just say logically, why is this person questioning our history? Our history is not roses and rainbows. Our history is dark. And there is a reason to question history, and we should question history, and we should all Muslims should question the history and see what they feel sits correctly in the logic. You know, when Imam Hussaini alayhi salam was in Karbala, and he used to have meetings with the leader of the army of Yazid. Umar ibn Sa'd was the commander of the army of Yazid. And Imam Hussaini Islam used to ask him, what's going on? Why do you want to fight, and let's come to some kind of a deal or something like that, where you agree to what, I will go away from here, I won't bother you, all that stuff. Imam Hussain gave him how many reasons to let him go? Just not because Imam wanted to escape. Imam didn't have a problem with Shahada. It was his Jahannam that Imam was trying to save him from. If you kill the Imam, if you kill innocents, you're going to Jahannam. So one night on the eve of Ashura, Imam Hussain asks Umar ibn Sa'd to come down and have a meeting with him. And he comes down on his horse. He comes to Imam and they have a talk. Imam says, ask your soldiers who are blowing the trumpets and beating the drums to stop. So he tells them to stop, to quieten down. So they all quieten down. Then Imam says, ask your horses and the camels that are making noises and neighing loudly to stop. And Umar ibn Sa'd says, I can't do that. It's not my control. I can't do that. So Imam raised one finger with his own powers. All the animals went quiet. And then Imam asked him a question. Why do you want to fight me? Why do you want to kill me? And then Umar ibn Sa'd said one sentence. Bughz ibn Abi. Means our hatred for your father. Who is the father? Imam Ali alayhi salam, right? he clearly said, the commander of Yazid's forces in front of Imam Hussein said, I am fighting you. It is so clear that the historians who were there from the army side wrote this. Because of the hatred you have for your father, you're fighting. This is how deep the hatred ran. How deep the hatred ran for Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then the man, as I mentioned in the beginning of the lecture, Imam Ali alayhi salam, who never desired anything. He didn't desire to be born in the Kaaba wanted him. He didn't desire the Alam of Khyber. The Alam of Khyber wanted him to have him. So Imam Ali went with the Alam. You know, all these things I mentioned to you, Imam Ali alayhi salam had no desire for himself. But he did pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for one thing, and that was to give him a brave and loyal son who would support Imam Hussain alayhi salam in Karbala. He did pray for that. The one who did not desire for anything desired for a son like that. Can you imagine how important that son must have been? And this is none other than Abbas ibn Ali we're talking about. Hazrat Abbas was on the side of Imam Hussain alayhi salam constantly. And he was the brother of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, but he never referred to himself as the brother of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. He always referred to himself as the servant, as a slave of his own brother. Every time Imam Hussain needed anything, Abbas, call Abbas. Imam Hussain trusted him. On the day when Imam Ali alayhi salam was martyred, and Imam Ali was giving everybody's hand in his elder son Imam Hassan's hand to take care of this person. Hassan, take care of this person. Hassan, take care of that person. You person, support Hassan. And then he heard a voice of crying coming from outside the door. And then he saw Baneen, who was the mother of Abbas. And Baneen is also in tears. And Imam Ali asks her, who is crying and why are you in tears? And she says to Imam Ali, Ya Mawla, you gave everybody's hands to your son Hassan's hands, but you forgot my son Abbas. He is crying outside that father has not remembered me. And then Imam Ali said to Baneen, call my son Abbas. He called Abbas and gave Abbas's hand, not into Imam Hassan's hand, but into Imam Hussein's hand. And he said to Abbas, Abbas, do not leave your brother. On the day of Karbala, he will be all alone and you will be there with him. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was such a powerful source of strength for Imam Hussain alayhi salam that nobody was scared when Abbas was around. The ladies were sure that when Abbas is around, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen to them. And Bibi Zainab used to recall what her father said to her when he had brought her to Kufa first. And he was showing to her, to Bibi Zainab, Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he brought her to Kufa first, look, this is the square of Kufa, look, this is the street of Kufa. And Bibi Zainab said to her father, my dear father, why are you trying to show me these things? I'm not going to go outside. You show it to my brothers. And Imam Ali alayhi salam had told her that one day there will come a time when you will be paraded through these streets with your arms in chains and in ropes. And she said that I used to think, how can I be in chains when I have a brother like Abbas? But because my father has said it, it will definitely happen. She knew that it will definitely happen, but she could not understand how it will happen because she had a brother like Abbas. That was how brave he was. He was a source of fear to the army of Yazid, of Umar ibn Sa'd. When one of the fighters of Imam Hussain alayhi salam was in a bit of a danger, Abbas used to just run behind with his horse and the army would give a chance to the fighter that was in danger at that time. They all got killed one by one, but what I'm trying to show to you is the valor and the fear that Abbas created by his own skills and strength. He was one person who never got his wish from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Everybody who asked for permission to go out to battle, Imam alayhi salam gave permission to go out to battle. They got their wish. At least they had whatever they had, the choice to serve the Imam till the end. They did it. But Abbas, being the general of that little army of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, being the trainer of so many soldiers over there, he never got a chance. He never got a permission to go out and battle. Imam alayhi salam always used to say, Abbas, you are the general of my army. You are my brother. How can I let you go? And Abbas used to say, Ya Mawla, where is the army? There is nobody left. Apart from you and me, there is nobody left. Even the kids who I raised in my arms are finished now. It's only me and you. And Imam would say, no, Abbas, I can't let you go. You are the only one that I have. And Sakina, little Sakina, the daughter of Imam Hussaini Islam, would, scream, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. The other children would scream, Al-Atash, oh thirst, oh thirst. And Abbas would say to Imam, Mawla, the sounds and the screams of the children, I can't bear it anymore. And Imam said, okay, Abbas, you are granted permission to go and get the water from the river. Hazrat Abbas takes the musk, the water container from Sakina, and goes to the river. Can you imagine a man who is thirsty for 3 to 4 days? He's standing at the river. The water is lapping his feet, but he does not drink the water. Even the horse was so loyal that he did not drink the water from the river because his master was not drinking. And so Hazrat Abbas was of the idea that if my master is thirsty, my sister is thirsty, my children are thirsty, how can I drink the water? And he took the water from the Euphrates and put it in the water container and went back. As he was going back, he was fighting the army who was announcing loudly, don't let the water reach the tents. And somebody hidden from behind a tree smashed a sword into Abbas's right hand. His right hand fell apart. He grabbed the water container with his left hand. Somebody from behind the other side hit him on the left hand. His left hand was severed and he grabbed his water container with his teeth and he kept moving to the tents. But some lion sent an arrow which went straight through the water container and hit Abbas's chest, and Abbas lost all strength. His main motive for fighting was to take the water to the tent for the children. He fell down from the horse with an arrow piercing his chest and an arrow piercing his eye. He fell down and somebody hit him on the back of his head. He could not balance himself and he started to scream, Ya Mawla, take my salams, I am leaving. Imam Hussaini Islam came to his brother and said, Ya Abbas, what happened now? What am I going to do? My back is broken. There are only 2 people of the 72 that they were not brought, their dead bodies were not brought to the tents. One was Imam Hussaini Islam and the other was Hazrat Abbas Islam. May Allah accept this little ibadat that we have in the name of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. May Allah give us the marifah and the understanding to learn more about the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about Imam Ali alayhi salam, about Imam Ali's brave son Abbas, and increase our closeness to the whole of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. صلوات على محمد وعلى اله وصحبه.
Gulshan Zahra, Gulshan Zahra, Gulshan Zahra, Gulshan Zahra, Zahra tere gulshan ka har phool nirala hai. Zahra teri gulshan ka har phool nirala hai. Har phool ne sar deke Islam ko pala hai. Zahra teri gulshan ka har phool nirala hai. अफ़सोस मुसलमानों आशूर मक़तल में, अफ़सोस मुसलमानों आशूर मक़तल में, कुरान के पारों को नेज़ों पे उछाला है। हर फूल ने सर दे के इस्लाम को पाला है। ज़हरा तेरी गुलशन का हर फूल निराला है। ऐ मौत कभी तूने ज़ैनब से नहीं पूछा, ऐ मौत कभी तूने ज़ैनब से नहीं पूछा, 18 बरस कैसे इस शेर को पाला है। हर फूल ने सर दे के इस्लाम को पाला है। ज़हरा तेरी गुलशन का हर फूल निराला है। बस कब्र ही ज़हरा की डूबी है अंधेरों में, बस कब्र ज़हरा की डूबी है अंधेरों में। हालात मदीने में हर सुनते उजाला है। हर फूल ने सर दे के इस्लाम को पाला है। ज़हरा तेरी गुलशन का हर फूल निराला है। सरकार मोहम्मद हो औसत हो के आखिर हो, सरकार मोहम्मद हो औसत हो के आखिर हो। ज़हरा के चिरागों से हर सुनते उजाला है। हर फूल ने सर दे के इस्लाम को पाला है। ज़हरा तेरी गुलशन का हर फूल निराला है। ज़हरा तेरी गुलशन का हर फूल निराला है। अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न अमीरुल मुमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न फातिमत ज़हरा सय्यदतुन निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या हसन इब्न मुज्तबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या हुसैन शहीद करबला, अस्सलामु अलैका या हज़रत अब्बास इब्न अमीरुल मुमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या तमाम शुहदाए करबला वसीराने करबला व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैका या मौला व इब्न मौला, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुईन الضعفاء والفقراء السلطان بالحسن علي بن الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا قاطع البرهان، السلام عليك يا مظهر الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجن. أجل الله تعالى فردا وسهل الله تعالى مخرجا وظهورا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا
sit down. School. I have school. I have work. Your parents still here? No? Still here. We go when they go. Only nice to meet you. Okay, let your parents call you. Then you can go. I like you.
Well, where from?
I work as a fraud investigator.
Oh, nice.